Good evening out there from all corners of Soweto, Johannesburg, Gauteng, South Africa, and all the hinterlands of Africa and all over the world. Welcome to Sakumzi Restaurant, where Sello Maake Ncube Foundation is holding conversations between fathers and sons. And this time I'm talking about me, Sello Maake Ncube, having conversations with my sons on GBV during the 16 days of activism for no violence against women and children. I hope you're going to see something that will mesmerize you, something that I hope will touch your souls and touch your hearts as we carry on with these conversations on trying to chip away at the scourge of gender-based violence. I've got my sons today, but not only my sons. I've got my daughter too, and our guest is virtual. And please follow us on Twitter or on these handles. Hashtag Sello MKN _sons changing behavior. Hashtag Sello MKN _sons changing attitudes. Hashtag Sello MKN and _sons change is possible. Please commit daily to changing your behavior. Commit daily to ending gender-based violence. Today is the International Day of People with Disabilities. And we thought that since it is that day, and disability also affects me in my family, I've brought in my daughter to share her story, because she has also been a victim of gender-based violence. I would like to open up and say and introduce our guest, Ozhana Sadiki. Please tell us say a few words of introduction and give greetings to my sons this side.
To you first, and to also say to you, thank you for the opportunity. I really do appreciate. I think just listening to what you said 2 days ago, was it yesterday? Both you and your son spoke about. It's one thing to and Mama Digizela, actually it was that session, I think it was yesterday, where you spoke about it's something to say that we are talking about GBV, but it's another thing to do an action, to do something about it and to show up for it. So I just want to say thank you for giving me the opportunity to show up. And to both your sons, your amazing sons, listening to them, I was thinking that you're so lucky to have the two boys that you have. I was so impressed yesterday. I would have wished to be in the room to meet you personally. I think it would have been an honor and an opportunity to learn, because I think that we can learn a lot from the youngsters, I would say.
No, thank you very much, Ozhana. I would like to give the opportunity to my sons to say hello to you.
Good evening, Mam Hana. Ikamalam Gulindo Bushe Makubo. I'm 23 years old and I'm Bob Sello's fourth son.
Hi, Ozhana. Limtolaka Keneo. Nice to meet you. Thank you.
And I'll give my daughter. I'm also give my daughter to say hello to you.
Hi, Ozhana. My name is Lerato, and I'm 34 years old. I'm the third born in the family.
Thank you.
Pleased to meet you, Lerato.
Nice to meet you too.
Thank you, Ozhana. Our topic today, we'll be talking about a whole range of things, Ozhana. And this morning we had a wonderful conversation. The other episode that we recorded, we had a wonderful conversation around absence of fatherhood, being invisible violence to women and children. And we had a wonderful discussion around that. And today, we thought, since it is the International Day of persons with disability, and I've got my daughter. My daughter is deaf, and I thought, and I asked her, can we have a conversation today about how gender-based violence affects people who with a hearing impairment? And my daughter graced me with her answer of yes. And a broad smile just, dressed my face. And I'm going to ask you, Sis Anna, what is your take as far as, trying to make life better for people with disabilities?
So if you allow me, Sello, is to start with saying we need to start with the fact that we shouldn't be calling people disabled. They are able differently. They are not disabled. They potentially have abilities that we who are deemed to be able, don't have. I speak like this because having worked in different spaces and seen different disabilities, I have seen how deaf people have got better senses than the person who's not deaf, have. I've seen how they have an ability to read people better than I do, and I admire that. I have seen the strength in people on wheelchairs that we, the abled people, do not have. So we should say we are differently enabled. And that for me is a starting point. If we start with that perspective, we will see that we will be able to treat people with respect and acknowledge their abilities that they are given. And actually hone in on using those abilities in employment, in social environments that they have. So, I have a cousin who's deaf. I had learned how to speak sign language. I've lost it because I don't speak as often now with my work as I did when I was growing up. But I know that she's a much stronger woman than I am. And I've always appreciated that. And I've seen that in family, we've treated her slightly different, as opposed to treating her like just a woman, a mother, a sister, a cousin, an aunt. And I appreciate that about her. And she's an amazing photographer. She has an eye on photography that I don't think I could ever even dream to have. She's made me love photography. She has a much better sense in reading people. And we don't use that, which means we the able people lose out.
No, you're absolutely right, Susanna. And also we have a tendency that when we have people, and you say we always keep them on the side and not treat them as part of us. And they're always like just, we actually marginalize them actually. And whereas we talk about not being marginalized by the systems and by whatever, but when we have to embrace, things in our lives, we tend not to. And, I'm tempted even to speak about, the very first time we discovered that she's deaf and the word went around. And I remember people at our church said, God is punishing them. And I remember my response to, well, if their God is that kind of a God who punishes, but for me, this time God is saying, I want to show you the other side of life. And I tell you how she has influenced my acting. It's unbelievable. In fact, I should have remembered that, there's a lovely Shakespeare line where, Shakespeare says, to be able to have the eyes that hears, and for deaf people, basically, they hear with their eyes. But I would like to give my sons first their opportunity and their take and how it has, impacted on them when they discovered that their sister is deaf. Lindo. No, go ahead.
Osana, I think you just read my mind, when you're talking about disability, because, I've never taken my sister as a disabled, and and she's a first driver, so you can imagine. I always tell her, like, when I'm a boy, when coming to that point of disability, it just hurts me, like hearing people telling others that people are disabled. You know, I think according to my own definition, I would say probably but disabled. But don't have anything. They can't do things for themselves. You understand? And one thing I could say, Kuhori, sometimes, as you said, we are able, but you may find there's a lot of disability in ourselves, able people. Because other people, they can see, but they cannot see clearly. Others, they can hear, but they cannot hear us. And you ask yourself, or like, okay, this person I thought is able, but I've been saying 1, 2, 3, but he kept on saying 7, 5, 4, you know. And what I would like to tell people as well, like, these people are human beings, as long as they are born by humans, you know. So they are not born by animals. That one we should underline, you know, because of now we need to treat them equally to us. As there is woman empowerment, there must be deaf empowerment as well, you know. So even disabled people that we call disabled, because there's so many wonders that I've seen, you know, disabled people which we call disabled. They have done so many things which are so amazing. Like even if I don't remember well, Charles Dickens or Kemang, you know, that guy, he's a scientist. I forgot his name properly. But that guy, he's done so many amazing things that are scientific, but he can't move his head, he can't move his body. You know, the only thing that he can use is his mouth to move to places. And that defines to me as able. I don't know.
No, you're right. Lindo, what is your take? I think that guy is Hawkins. I think
Stephen Hawkins.
Yeah?
Stephen Hawkins.
Not David or something, but I know the surname is Hawkins. Yeah.
I think with me, I've never really seen my sister as disabled. And I think that's both a good and a bad thing at the same time, because she's been able to lip read. So I think the bad side of it is we've never made the effort to really learn sign language to accommodate her. But, you know, the good thing about it was because, you know, we treated her like normal, you know, as part of us, basically. So I see it both as a good and a bad thing.
Absolutely. I'm going to, you know, you're right. And you're right on that one, that we have never given ourselves time, you know, but I know for a fact that my sign language may be 1%, because I think I was talking
No, but it's not the problem. I'm not the problem.
Not
I think
even.
maybe
She
I
says
can
not
teach you
1%.
more. I can teach you more.
say it again, Lerato.
So I'm saying that maybe I'm the one with the problem, you know, because I'm not teaching you. I'm the one who's late. It's not your fault. I should be the one teaching you, you know.
Oh,
Because
you're
you
so
spoke,
gracious.
I'm the only girl,
You're so
you know. I think that's the reason why it's the excuse. I'm the only girl in the family.
You're so great. But I want you to, I must tell you this story. Can I tell the story when we were driving? We were driving, and Lerato is driving, and I'm sitting on the passenger side, and we get stopped by traffic cops, you know. And, you know, the protective instinct of a parent jumps in. So when the traffic cop comes to the window, I'm leaning over to try and speak to the traffic cop. God, boy, was I called to order? It was like, hey, I can speak for myself. And I went, ooh, okay. And she continued to drive. Oh, all the way I was like, I'm sorry. I apologize.
Well done, Lerato. Well done.
But also, I would like, I mean, my daughter, you know, experienced gender-based violence. And I wonder, you know, I would like to give her the chance to tell us her story.
Yeah. I would
Okay.
before she starts, can I just mention something that is close to my heart, that I think as she tells her story will also maybe facilitate. I don't know. But you know, I think it was Lindo who said that, you know, maybe we have not learned sign language. And that's something that Lindo, I realized for myself at my age now, that, you know, earlier on I learned it because it was important for me to compensate with my cousin. We are very close. And And I think it's something that is quite important that hopefully someone in government is listening, that it be taught as an option in
Hallelujah.
school, because it is a language, and it's a language that's important so that people can be able to interact with deaf people, because that is also one of the starting point that will move us from marginalizing or not interacting with people. I think it's important that I just thought that I wanted to share that. And also to speak about how we also take these things so light, that around how we behave. GBV starts at the root of how we behave. But Sello, you gave the example of wanting to defend. Your parental instinct said, I need to talk to the traffic cops. And the thing is, that's what we do with disability. We want to jump in and actually do. So it doesn't allow them to be who they can be. My son said to me last week, because my uncle is starting to stutter, he had a little bit of a mouth stroke, and said, Mom, you wanted to finish words for him. And I said, you are right. I am wrong. I should not finish words. I should have the patience to wait. In the same way, when I was learning the Portuguese language, which I'm losing as well, is that people had the patience to wait for me to finish and then correct me or add. And I guess that's a root of showing respect.
Absolutely.
Sorry, Lerato. Just wanted to just put that in. Thank you.
No, absolutely. So, Lerato, do you mind sharing with us your experience of gender-based violence?
Absolutely. So I have been a victim of gender-based violence a couple of years ago. What happened was that during the time I wasn't aware that it was happening. I was being a victim of it because of the situation. I don't even know where to go. I didn't know where to, get support because I've never had the experience before. That was my first time experience being a victim of GBV. So I went to the next door neighbor, and that person fortunately helped me, and they sent the contact to my father, who came to my rescue. However, the next door neighbor was like, you should go to the police station. Okay. And we went together to the police station. When we arrived at the police station, they gave me a form to fill in. And, we went to the clinic, but I didn't know exactly what was going on. What is going to happen? Why must I go to the clinic? Because I have no information. I felt like it was a violation and information barrier. I didn't have access to it. So I went to the police station. They opened a case for me. But after that, not really sure what happened. There was no follow-up. There was no feedback. I had to go there again to find out what is the case happening. So I felt definitely neglected. There was no support system for me. No one was there to stand up for me and to support me. There was no advice, no way forward, go to this person, go to this contact center. So sure, yes, my father was there, very, very supportive. He always is there, especially with my own wellness and my body health. I felt like, if this is happening to me as a deaf person, you can imagine other deaf people in the community. What are they going through in terms of access to services, access to interpreters? No one can help them. There are no support systems. So that experience taught me a lot, lots of awareness and exposure.
Thanks, Michael. And in response from you, Osana.
Yeah, I guess it goes back to that point I made, Abitsilo, which is, if this is not a recognized language, it's not even taught, it therefore will never get to public spaces. It will not get to police. It will not get to the hospitals, to the clinics. And you're right, Lerato, so how you felt is exactly how a deaf person will feel, that they would go to a police station and nobody would be able to interpret, and they would not even have an interpreter, because we as a country have not recognized it as such. And I think that we have technology today that could help with those things. There's technology today that government can put in different public spaces where you can do sign language through a bot, and the bot can actually speak over to explain to the policeman, to the doctor, to the nurse in a clinic, to Home Affairs if you're looking for documentation, so that they're able to help you. But we are not thinking about differently abled people. We are not. And my heart goes out to you, and I'm sorry that you had to go through that. I'm glad your dad was there, and I'm glad the neighbors were there to take you through. But the challenge with GBV is that that our police system is hugely
That's true.
inefficient.
It is. And I can assure you now, I mean, since we went, we haven't heard from them. The last thing they told us that they couldn't find the Lerato's boyfriend, and that was it. And this thing happened which year?
And even then, up until now, it's almost 4 years now. No feedback, no follow-up.
Almost
Almost
4
5 years.
No feedback.
No, I haven't seen them again.
You know, and the thing also about our government and our country, our government, they've got the best catchphrases: social cohesion. How do we take that social cohesion further? Can we see it in practice, not in words? You know?
You know what the challenge is? I think where the brokenness is sitting is that we have police working as police without working with people who are looking after the social responsibility. You know, where is the Minister of Women, Children, and Disabled People in the conversation with police, in the conversation with the medical minister? Sorry?
No. She was saying Lerato was saying she agrees with you.
Yeah, because if those conversations were happening, the cohesion would work. It won't work when people are thinking in silos in their different divisions, as if as human beings we live specific events. You are a full human being as Lerato. You go through life events that need to be catered for across your life, and they need to be catered for by the government that understands you as a full human being. But they don't understand us like that. You know, they don't understand us like this, and therefore cohesion is not going to be there. The strap line is a strap line. It's not made active.
Lerato, what are your feelings? What is your response to what Osana has said?
Absolutely, Osana, I agree with you that social cohesion is just a word, but in terms of execution and implementation, it doesn't, work. So especially with the deaf community as well, there've been lots of victims or people who've been survivors of GBV, and access to the police station. They keep saying that they'll learn sign language, but they don't know and they don't take the initiative to learn the language. So they'll say, yes, we'll implement and we'll have systems in place. Should a deaf person come if they need communication? But what always happens is that, let's say a person is a victim of abuse. The police station or the police officer feels frustrated with the deaf person who's the victim. And even with the interpreter as well, they say, yeah, I know the sign language, but sometimes when they meet the deaf person, the interpreter themselves does not know, the dialect of the deaf person, which is a big misinformation. So information is dropped when the statement is taken. And lots of frustrations within the deaf community because it feels like our right to information is violated. And it's a big problem because we can't solve it and we haven't found solutions. So we've had a deaf person who's been arrested, but they didn't explain to them what their rights are, what is the situation. They went to court, no interpreter in court. What happened to the case? They just arrested the person for no reason. There was no witness, no interpreter. So as a deaf person, my access to all of these services is violated. It's a big problem, Hannah.
Absolutely.
Yes, Osana.
No, I'm agreeing with Lerato. I'm saying absolutely. It's almost like, and that's why I'm appreciating what you're doing, Abutsolo, is that you're tackling within GBV, you're tackling the different aspects that make up GBV. I don't think this is the first time for me where I've, I won't give up my age, but I'm way past 50. Oh, by the way, now I have a son same age as you, and is my last son. So your dad is catching up to do because my 4 sons are much bigger than his children. So what I've appreciated is that you're not tackling GBV at a general point. You're saying there's aspects within that we need to be talking about. I guess the next thing is how do we get government to see these points? How do they listen to these conversations that we are having and work on addressing? I was listening on my way this morning to the airport when one of the organizations were speaking about the fact that they've actually drafted something that had to do with GBV and shared it. But we are not policymakers. How do we influence? Is I guess I would say, look, a legacy that you and me and other people need to start thinking about. How do we force influence in government to change their policies in alignment with that?
Yeah. Gents, your responses, what are your feelings?
I think for me, it's more, I've never, been, like aware of what goes on, like to that extent, you know what I mean? So it's a huge eye opener for me. I can imagine frustration that, she, Larato, goes through. It's, it's crazy.
And talking about that, Lindo, that frustration is actually, can you imagine yourself that somebody just drops you in the middle of China?
Yeah. And and no one speaks the language.
Yeah. And you cannot speak their language.
Yes.
And you can imagine how frustrated you can be.
Exactly.
And somehow we all wish that the government, could really step up. And we have a beautiful constitution, and in the constitution, and it embraces the rights of everybody. The Bills of Rights is everybody has got a right to, but it is all in paper. Yeah. Those rights are not practiced on a day-to-day basis. Yeah. Now, what your response?
Yeah. So, I can imagine as well, like, as all these things are happening, and the experiences that has happened to my sister, as a brother, you can imagine what goes through your mind, because now you want to be there as a defense, you understand? Because now you will want to hunt this guy, and yourself, like, to deal with him personally. And that's not what we want. That's why we involve the police, you understand? So they can do law and order, to our society, because we all want to be safe. We don't want certain people because they're able and then they're safe. What about others as well? Can we include everybody in this, the law system and our constitution, as my father has mentioned, So please, it's our plea, to the government to take this matter, seriously. Thank you.
And let's say,
just to add my comments to what we're talking about, and the issue is, regardless of that, could be any kind of abuse or violence. We've got different exposures or experiences of abuse under the umbrella. So it could be physical or harassment. So the big access that we need is information. That's our biggest barrier. How do we create access to disabled people? So awareness to the family. So, for example, do you think the father knows that the daughter is being raped? How do they communicate what they experienced physically? Because they don't know the language. How can the child express what's going on in the body? So I think through education, through awareness, if you've got a deaf child, please support the child. As a parent, support your deaf child. It's the same at schools. The education system, information to access, we don't have that. I feel like education systems are not coming and stepping up to the table. They always blame the teacher, or the teacher blames the parents, But for me, as a deaf person or a deaf child, who do I communicate to? Who's that contact person? So we need to solve that and we need to address that issue. So, for example, our deaf children are neglected. They feel like, it's too difficult to learn sign language. It's too difficult to communicate. That's always the perception. So what they do, the children feel isolated, they are neglected, and they go away. They're outcasts in society, basically, because of their own families at home. They don't feel involved. So what happens is that I feel like that issue needs to be advocated, and we need to lobby it, definitely.
Yeah.
We'll have to 2 minutes. If you were the president, Lera, what are the things that you would want to see in place for deaf people?
If I was president, my goodness, I'd want to change so many things.
Let's go. Mention. Yeah.
Okay, so first and foremost, sign language has to be recognized. That's the first and foremost as an official language. Secondly is access, please. Access to information. So access to services, different kinds of services, and also employment, please. Opportunities for economic access, please. More jobs.
President, Lerato, Maake Ncube.
Thank you.
Mel, if you
Yeah, and I just wanted to say, you know what? Okay, able people, can we be the voice of the disabled? You know, so that we can be able to fight this, you know, problem together. You know, and adding again, I wanted to say something, but it slipped my mind. You know,
Yeah,
but it's
old
okay.
age, old age.
Let's be the voice. Please, let's be the voice. Thank you.
Lindo, your last words.
I think it's incumbent on us to actually, you know, put in more effort towards understanding the deaf society, not necessarily just the deaf society, but you know, the disabled society. So yes.
Osana, your last words.
Yeah. My last words, I'm with Neo on this one. And I'm with Lerato, which is, you know, let's start at home in making sure that we treat our family members, our friends, not as disabled, but differently abled. Let's inculcate that in communities when we see it. You know, someone said to me, GBV doesn't start at someone being at 23 doing something wrong. It starts with, you know, when are ushapile or do you actually go? So it's, are we having the conversation in the communities where you see something wrong, you go, no, you don't treat that person like that just because they don't have a voice. How do we encourage in schools, in workplaces? And workplaces for me is big up with Sello, because it's easy for us to say, you know, we are employing disabled people, but if the environment is not conducive to what Lerato just said, access to information, it doesn't help. You know, my experience of you know what we had done in the previous time was that we wanted to employ a lot of people who are blind in the call center, and we employed them because they have a better listening ear than actually people who can see. To what I think I don't remember whether it was Lindo or Neo who said that. And they are the most amazing people, but the environment had to be right. The access to information for them in the manner that they can see through Braille had to be right. And the noise levels in that space had to be right. So the environment is so, so, so important. If I was the president, Lerato, I agree, in all these places, it would have to be part of how we show this cohesiveness.
Osana, thank you, and let me thank you
And
for,
thank you,
for
Lerato. I remember some of the sign language.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Osman. Thank you.
Yes. And Osana, thank you very much,
Same to
for,
me. Thank you.
you know, thank you for giving us your time, you know, taking time off to engage us, to engage my sons. And, you know, I think they've taken a lot from what you have said. And we've all taken a lot. As I speak, my heart is swollen with a combination of joy and sadness. You know, happy that we've had this conversation, but sad that we have to live with these kinds of problems. Thank you very much. And let me thank you, my son, and let me thank you, my rose among the thorns. You know, thank you, my baby. Thank you. Well, we've come to the end of the show, and you've had it all. You know, and I hope we take something to our homes and make sure that let us take care of those, or just open the world for those we think they are disabled. As it has been said by Osana earlier on, they are abled differently, and it is true. What they can do, some of us who are assumed to be able, we cannot do. This is me, Sello Maake, and my children. And let me take also the opportunity to thank Pindi for interpreting for us and making it possible for us to have this conversation. Without her, we wouldn't have had it. Thank you very much, Pindi. And me, Sello Maake, I am saying now, goodbye, bye-bye, sayonara.